Yes.
Sure.
Yes, totally ready.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back once again with webinar number 7. We have had 6 webinars on various topics, including students' counseling webinars. In the past, we have been having webinars specifically designed only for the benefit of students. We had decided our webinars only at the professional level because there is a horde of them right now online. So we had webinars maybe on a couple of topics of building materials. We've had a couple of topics on construction technology, wherein we talked on face structures, we've talked on tensile structures. We've also talked on a couple of issues on students' counseling as to the avenues available to them after architecture, the avenues of
Where are you? I think sir is facing.
These are the miracles of technology.
Yes.
And more so because of the load that has suddenly popped up. Everybody is working from home.
Yeah.
Double the number of the load has increased, and we don't have that infrastructure to sustain that load.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That
I
is
think sir
okay.
is got disconnected.
Yeah, that is okay. We can. I know we probably need to finish it by 7:30 p.m. your time, p.m. our time, because it gets too late in the evening after that. So to bother the students and all of you.
I think when he walks in, I think he'll cut it short. He knows how to do that.
So we'll still plan on our presentations at the same time we scheduled, and then probably make it shorter a little bit for the question and answer session.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Muted. Okay. Now we can hear you, Professor Shiva.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was worried about. Yeah. So I was at the I was just introducing the amount of webinars that we have had. We had 6 and 7. I got Dr. Sarah Lavi from the University of Texas A&M University. There were a lot of questions that people were asking me as to how we got in with, of all universities, we got in touch with Texas A&M. History. I mean, Dr. Lavi and me, we have a common thread in the form of one of my students who did his graduation under me and post-graduation under Dr. Lavi. So we had a common who put us on to each other. And this has finally terminated into a webinar wherein we requested Dr. Lavi, who readily accepted, to talk to our students on an emerging field of facility management. So now, before I go on to this, I welcome you all for this webinar. And I'm just going to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Lavi and one of his graduate students, Dheeraj Kumar Sarogi, who is also a graduate student of Texas A&M, to join us here on webinar number 7 that is hosted by Amity School of Architecture and Planning, Amity University, Mumbai. With us this evening, we have Professor Amity for the evening. He is a structural engineer and a part-time professor at Amity School of Architecture and Planning, AUM. Welcome you, and a very welcome to all the participants of this webinar. This goes on without any hitch. I have to take the pleasure of introducing Dr. Lavi, a professor at the Department of Construction Science advances at Dr. Lavi's research interests are in the areas of facility management, as I've already told you, and construction management as well. Mainly in the healthcare and education sectors, life cycle cost techniques, performance indicators, and facility management education. Dr. Lavi has taught both graduate and graduate level classes in facility management, construction cost estimating, and introductory classes in construction management. He authored and co-authored more than 90 pages peer-reviewed conference proceedings. Dr. Lavi is a journal in facility management, working with the editorial team members around the world. An honorary appointment.
I think sir is,
2005. Hello. I think I lost the last slide. Yeah. Dr. Lavi earned his, I'll repeat that, Dr. Lavi earned his PhD in Civil and Environmental Engineering from the Israeli Institute of Technology and joined Texas A&M University in the year 2005. Now, before I request Dr. Lavi to take over, I'll just request all the participants to switch off their audio and their cameras. If they have any question answers, you can type the questions, you can type them in the chat box here. You can also put down your questions in the comment box on the YouTube. We are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. And one other request here once again is there may be slightly problems here because of the rain. I think you'll have to bear with us. The structure of the webinar is going to be Dr. Lavi is going to present the importance of facility management. He'll to talk generally about facility management. Then he'll just brief you about what they do at Texas A&M University. And then after a break of a couple of minutes where Professor Amity Prabhu will be making his comments on the presentation, Dheeraj will be talking about the campus at Texas A&M University, and more importantly for the students, he is going to talk about the admission process, how to make a portfolio, and also on how to write your statement of purpose, or SOP as they call it, after Dr. Lavi's presentation. Dr. Lavi, I welcome you here on board. Please take over.
Thank you very much, Professor Shirodkar, for the invitation, and thank you for this introduction. Dheeraj, if you can please start the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Give me a moment.
And then I know it gets too late for you, for your students already, so we'll try to keep it on time. In any case, at the end of the presentation, you will have our email address and phone numbers and contact details. So if we do not have time to address all the questions from the students, students will be able to connect with Dheeraj and with me after that, and we'll be very happy to answer any additional questions.
We'll try to cover as many as we can, but whatever remaining, I think Dr. Lavi will reply to them. Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think you can start.
Yes, next slide, please. Okay, so to start with, I want to say namaste and thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to present here at the School of Architecture and Planning at Amity University in Mumbai. I accepted the invitation from Professor Shirodkar, as he mentioned to all of you earlier on. We made the connection we made was by one of our former students who graduated from that program and then came to Texas A&M, graduated from our program, and now is working in the industry. And so I'm very happy to do that. And I want to welcome each and every single one of you to this presentation, whether you are here on Google Meet or here on YouTube or Facebook or whatever way you chose to connect with us. So welcome to the presentation, and I look forward for it. I'll go over it pretty fast. The outline of the presentation start with a brief introduction. Then the main body of the presentation is to give you a little flavor of the emerging field of facility management, what it is about, why it is important, what is the market, what are job opportunities, and so on. We'll talk about as much as we can cover in this limited amount of time. Then I'll share with you a little bit about Texas A&M University and our graduate programs and the department and what you need to know before you come here. And I guess the most important part of this presentation today is we kept it to the last, is a presentation by Diraj Kumar Saraugi, who is a student in our program, graduate student in our program, and he's from Mumbai originally. So Diraj will talk with you about the student's experience being a graduate student in our program. So this is the plan for today. And a short introduction, Professor Shirodkar has already mentioned, I am originally born and raised in Israel. I went to study civil engineering at the Technion. My bachelor's degree earned it in 1999 over there. Technion is the Israeli Institute of Technology, the best school for technology over there in Israel. It is located in the city of Haifa. Next slide, please. And here are some pictures, photos of my hometown in Israel where I used to live before moving to the US. So as you can see, Haifa is located right on the coast of the Mediterranean, very similar to Mumbai. It's a coast city, a port. It's the largest port in Israel, located in the northern part of the country. I think Greater Haifa is about 2.5 million in population, so it's much smaller than Mumbai, but still, as you can see in these pictures, beautiful city. And if you did not have a chance to be there, then you definitely can plan for a visit one day. Next slide, please. And then I worked for 1 year in a design office, transportation design office. My passion was academia, so I really wanted to go back to school and did it to pursue a Master of Science in Civil Engineering. A research option, did my thesis on facility management, and then expanded it into a PhD program, also Technion Civil and Environmental Engineering, which I graduated from in 2006 with my PhD. Then I was hired by Texas A&M University, moved here to College Station, Texas back in 2005. So I've been here for 15 years now. I'm now a faculty in the Department of Construction Science, and we'll talk about that later on today, about our department. In the past, I used to serve as the graduate program coordinator, so I developed some very good understanding of the culture and working together with international students. I was promoted to full professor back in 2018. These days, I teach classes which I really enjoy teaching, facility management at the undergraduate and graduate level. I think you call them bachelor's and postgraduate, but for us, it is called undergraduate and graduate levels. Construction economics also at the graduate level. I do my research in facility management. And as I said, I live in College Station with my wife and 2 kids who are 16 and 12 years old. So this is a little bit about me. Oh, one more slide. I visited India twice in the past. First time it was for a conference, but it was more of as a tourist. You can see here some pictures of places. The conference was held in Hyderabad. So this is the picture on the photo on the top left. I forgot the name of that gate, but it is a famous gate over there in Hyderabad. Then the conference was held there, and then I was a tourist, as you can see, visited. I don't have to say the other places. I'm sure they're very familiar, Agra in Mumbai and Delhi. So this was my first visit back in 2015, and then I went back in 2018 after I was invited by a sister school of yours. Actually, it was the RICS School of Built Environment in Delhi, who invited me to give a 5-day workshop on facility management to their postgraduate students. And the photo you see at the top here in the center is from a field trip we had with the students and some staff members, professors in that program. We took a group photo at the DLF Cyber City project. DLF is one of the largest property development and real estate companies in India, I learned. So this photo was taken at Cyber City, where they hosted us for a beautiful, beautiful tour and presentation about the whole development of that project and how nice and modern the whole place is. So this is located in Gurgaon, so just outside of New Delhi, where we got to visit. So these were my 2 trips to India, and I look forward for going back there next time when I have the opportunity. I really enjoyed it. Next slide, please. Okay, now I get to the main part of my presentation, which is give you a small flavor of what facility management is about. Next slide, please. Before we start, typically, I mean, if this was an open discussion, then we could communicate with each other. I would probably have asked you, what does facility management mean to you? I'm sure that most of you, it is probably the first time you even hear the term facility management. Some of you may know what this is a little bit about, some may not at all. But facility management is very broad. So I'll start with an example. And the example I have is taken from the real estate market. What do you think is the average office vacancy rate in the USA? Let's take a couple seconds to think about that before we move to the next slide, and then we'll have the answer. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you can see here, the office vacancy rate, this is average for the whole entire United States. You can see that it can range significantly and it fluctuates from a minimum as low as 7 to 8% probably when the economy is doing very well, and can go up to close to 20% when we are in a time of recession or when the economy is struggling. So the differences between the low and the high points are very high, but I would say that on average, we are seeing a rate of about 13 to 14% office vacancy rate in the US. Now, what does it mean to us? I mean, we are all architects, designers, engineers, owners, make buildings, but think about that from the perspective of an owner. An owner or developer, they pay a lot of money to have the building in place where it is. Meaning they buy an existing building or they invest money in design, architecture, engineering, construction, development, infrastructure, everything. So not only that the building costs money to put it in place, they also pay a lot of money in financing. I mean, most of them probably take mortgage or loans to be able to run the project. So they pay banks and financial institutions a lot of money in financing. They pay money to keep it running. I mean, it is possible that some floors in a building are used or occupied, some are vacant. And these floors have to be serviced, have to be maintained, have to operate. Electricity must run, water must run, all kind of air conditioning must run, all kind of different services must run. So having vacant space means that someone is losing a lot of money out of that. Hopefully, these owners, these developers do anything they can in order to find tenants and people or companies who will be willing to lease their space so they can run their investment basically and make money back out of their huge investment in buildings. Next, please. So this is the situation in the US. I don't know what the average numbers for office vacancy rates are in India, but that would be interesting to learn from all of you. What is this number in Mumbai? What is it in Delhi? What is it in other places over there? But again, this is just one example, taking facility management to the real estate side and to the financial aspect of it. Next slide, please. Here are some more data about the FM markets. Studies have shown that it is estimated that only 2 to 5% of all buildings around us are in the process of being under construction. In other words, if you look around you, if you go around you, you will see that 1 out of every 20 to 1 out of every 50 buildings is in the process or is under construction. All other buildings are already existing buildings, which means that they need to be serviced, they need to be maintained. So this is one way to look at the facility management market. Another way to look is other studies show that estimates show us that 50 to 80% of what we call construction is not actually spent on new construction projects. It's not doing new construction. Rather, it is spent on other aspects of keeping existing buildings in place and in good conditions, like repairs, renovations, restoration, refurbishments, and all of these verbs to keep buildings in good conditions and good shape. So what is facility management? Here are two numbers. For examples I found in the literature. In the UK, for example, the facility management sector is estimated to be in the size of between 40 and 95 billion British pounds per year. That's the size of the market. In Australia, another study shows that in Australia, this market is estimated at 12.4 billion Australian dollars, and it is estimated that it hires, I think this all data, it's now, I'm sure it's well over 200,000 full-time employees, and is considered one of Australia's major business sectors. Next slide, please. In the US, we don't have exact specific data. What we know is based on IFMA's estimate. IFMA is the International Facility Management Association. I'll talk about that later on in my presentation, but IFMA estimates that today, if we look at today's market, we have about 24,000 job openings in facility management all over North America. I say North America, I mean Canada, US, and Mexico combined. So you see the numbers. Again, I don't have more numbers to share about USA. I know it is an emerging field in most of the world, Europe, Middle East, Eastern Asia, also India and China. I don't have numbers from there, but I'd be very happy to learn from your experts over there in India what is the size of the markets in your region. Next slide, please. Okay, so when we look at a project, this is a typical life cycle of a typical project. It starts with planning when the developer comes up with an idea. This is what I want to do. This is what I need space for. This is what is needed for me, for my making money or giving a service to the public or whatever purpose is for that building. From there, it goes into the design phase. So there is where architects and engineers come into the picture and take over control over the project, and of course developing all kinds of design solutions to hopefully meet the needs and the requirements of the owner or the developer. Then it goes into construction. So here comes construction professionals who take the design plans and programs from the designers and implement it actually and physically implement it into the real building. Then comes O&M, or this is an acronym for operations and maintenance. Once the building is built, once the building exists, then facility managers take over to run the building in terms of providing operations and maintenance services to the user along its service life. And then comes the assessment phase, where the different aspects of the building, various aspects such as a function, the space, the energy, physical conditions, the needs, and so on, are assessed based on the needs at that time of the business, of the owner, of the users, and then decisions are being made whether we need to make any changes and start the process all over again. Now, this is the life cycle wheel of a project, but if you pay attention carefully, one aspect or one dimension is missing from this picture. And the dimension that is missing here is the time dimension. I mean, if we want to look at that from the time perspective, or imposing a time perspective over this wheel, then this is what it will look like. Where you can see that planning, design, construction are relatively short. It can go a year, 2, 3, maybe 5 or 7 or even 10 in very large and very complex projects. And then comes operations and maintenance. And this runs for 20, 30, 50, 100, sometimes hundreds of years before the building is being assessed for the new cycle. So here you can see the role of a facility manager. I mean, if we said that planning is mainly developers and owner, design is mainly designers, architects, engineers, construction, mainly construction professionals, and O&M is mainly the responsibility of facility managers, then you can see here how important facility management, how important of a role facility management plays along the life cycle of a project. Next slide, please. So, what does facility management include? I will not go over this whole list. I will send the slide. You have the slide presentation. You can watch it on YouTube or Facebook, I think, after that, so you can pause it anytime and copy it. But I will also send a copy of this to Professor Shirokar, to anyone who wants to share it with anyone who wants to. But you see here that facility management is very broad. I mean, we talked a little bit about lease administration and dealing with tenants, but it is much broader than that. Some other examples include space planning, allocation, and management. So, for example, allocating space, deciding who gets what, how much space, and where. Think about a hospital. It is very important in a hospital that some units, some departments, or some wards are relatively close to each other in order to minimize the travel time of patients to get from point A to point B. Or for a university, for a school, for example, it is important that some departments or classes are held relatively close, so students will not have to run in 5 minutes or 10 minutes from one building on one end of campus to another building to the other end of campus to catch their next class. So think about the management of space in terms of, or in these terms. Dealing with the workplace, planning, allocation, management, furniture. I mean, what is the best setting of our workplace? I mean, office space, what furniture do we need to have there? A patient room in a hospital, hotel room in hotels, what kind of furniture, what kind of amenities to provide to the users for them to be comfortable and be most productive in doing what they need to do. Of course, the budgeting, financial aspect, we talked about that a little bit earlier, making or justifying every decision along the way based on data based on economic analysis, being able to understand the terms, the financial, real estate acquisition and disposal. We talked about that a little bit. Next slide, please. And here are some more examples of what facility management includes. So sustainability, very important aspect in today's world. We all talk about global warming and the impact of global warming. So there are plenty of governmental regulations that facility managers or those who operate buildings need to comply with in terms of emissions, recycling materials, and so on. All these have to do with sustainability. Even in terms of transportation, providing transportation to the users. How do they get there? Do they use public transportation or do they use their own cars, which creates more or adds more to the global warming impact? So dealing with all these are part of the responsibilities of facility managers. Dealing with construction, I mean, buildings are always being changed. We said earlier that 50 to 80% of the market is actually maintenance, repair, renovation, remodeling projects. So when I say construction project management, I refer to all of these. Dealing with people, moving, changing positions. Companies are always in a change. People always move offices, change location. New hires, retire personnel. So these aspects, this is also responsibility of facility management. A large one is probably dealing with operation, maintenance, and care of buildings. Technology, another big important, we all know how technology, we are all here on technology. Otherwise, we could have met in person somewhere in Mumbai or somewhere else in the world. But we're using technology today to do business, to conduct business, to teach, to learn, to educate students. So you see how important it is. Another responsibility of facility managers. Dealing with emergency planning. It can be natural or man-made disasters. And security, of course, and then general administration. Some facility managers are responsible on food and cafeteria services, mail services, daycare services for their employees, and so on. So all these are responsibilities, typical responsibilities of facility managers while they manage buildings and asset structures. Next, please. During the life cycle of a building, there are several cost items that occur over that life cycle. And here on this slide, you can see some of them. Thank you. Some are one-time costs, for example, purchasing the land, the design and construction of the structure to start with, then, of course, to build the building. Some other costs are recurring costs, for example, maintenance, repair, building management, building operations, energy, custodial services, making sure that the building is kept clean and nice, in good shape and condition. So these are recurring expenses, costs that happen in frequent intervals. And some costs are recurring, but they don't occur over a relatively longer period of time. For example, major renovation, major remodeling of the building. It's the time it depends on the building itself, but every 20, 30, sometimes even 50 years when we have a major renovation project. So these are also recurring, but not as the other costs because these typically happen over a longer period of time. Now, if I take only one aspect of these costs, only the maintenance and repair costs, and try to look at these costs over a typical 50-year period of a life cycle of the building, then this is what it will look like. You can see here, these are average costs for only maintenance and repair over a 50-year a period life cycle of a typical office building in the US. So that's why, I mean, I apologize. We use strange units, so we use square feet. If you want to convert from square feet to square meters, you just have to multiply times 10.76. This is the factor, so you can multiply the numbers times this factor to get it per square meter. But next, please. You can see here that there are typical minimum costs for maintenance and repair that happens on a yearly basis. But then once in a while, we have a larger or more expensive years where we need to do some things in the building. For example, touch up for paintings and walls every 5 years, or dealing with electrical systems, fire protection, maybe major inspections every 10 years. HVAC systems, some components live for 15 years and have to be replaced, and some other for 20 years. Elevators, 25 years. So we can see here the peaks in costs in some certain years, typically every 5 years it happens. But overall, if we take these 50 years and try to find an average, it comes to approximately, next slide please, approximately $2.8 per square foot per year. So again, converting it to your unit, it's about $30 per square meter. Next, please. Now, on this slide, you can see this is taken, by the way, the data I shared in the previous slide and this slide is adapted from a cost data catalog published by Whitestone Research. It used to be Whitestone Research, now I think it is under CBRE. So CBRE, I'm sure you're familiar with this company, also a large developer, a project management and a real estate management company in India, also worldwide actually. But now they have the access to this database, and it is available to the public. So if anyone wants to buy, you'll have to pay a fee to use it, but you're welcome to get it or buy it from CBRE if you wish to. But the point I want to make here is that based on the service level that you want to keep your building at, and this is just an example to how they derived the costs. So service level, you can see here on the left side of this screen, whereas the costs for these levels of service are shown on the left-hand side of this screen. You can see that maintenance and repair is approximately $2.8 per square foot per year on average. If we take it for over 50-year life cycle, then you see other large expenses for custodial, $2.4 per square foot, energy, $2.8, management of the building. And again, you can look at the right-hand side of the screen to see what it means. Management is also significant. But if you add all these numbers together, you come up to approximately $12 per square foot per year. So again, converting it to square meters, it's about $120, $130 per square meter per year. These numbers are for an average office space in Washington, D.C. And I'm sure that you can, I know they have a location conversion and also type of building conversion. So you can take it to other buildings. For example, if you want to convert these numbers to hospitals or to school facilities or to hotels, then there are some ratios that you need to play with the numbers, and also to other locations in the US, in Canada. I don't know if they have it elsewhere in the world. I know that their database, at least the one I have access to, has the data for US and Canada major cities. So going back to the numbers, $12 per square foot per year, these are recurring costs. If we compare it to the one-time cost to put the building in place, which again, average for office space for Washington, D.C. is approximately $200 per square foot, it means that each and every single year, we spend 6% of the initial costs, a one-time, remember the initial cost was a one-time event, one-time cost, one-time expense. And then every single year, we keep spending 6% of that amount to keep the building running, clean, energy running, maintenance, water, security, and all kinds of other services that we need to provide our building users with. So if you think about that, this becomes very significant cost over the period of the 50-year life cycle of a building. Next slide, please. So going back to IFMA's facility management core competencies, IFMA put together a list. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, IFMA is the International Facility Management Association. This is the largest professional organization where facility managers are represented. They, as far as I know, they have 2 or maybe now 3 chapters in India. You know, they have one in Delhi, one in Mumbai, and one in Chennai. If you're interested in this, you're very welcome to contact your local IFMA chapter and ask. I'm sure they have options for student memberships and professional memberships also. If you're interested to become a member in this organization. I think it's very important also not only to facility managers, but also to you as architects once you graduate and go out and find a job as in architecture office or design professional, or if you go into construction. It is important that you keep in contact, you keep in touch with what's going on the other side of the project. Once you finish the project, once you deliver the product, someone else takes it from there and runs the building, keeps running the building for the rest of their life. So this is the list of core competencies that IFMA put together that a facility manager should know about, not necessarily be proficient in all of them, but at least understand the terminology, the language, and know who they need to call in terms they have a problem and need help in any of these aspects. Next slide, please. Where can facility management be found? These are some examples of buildings. Again, these examples, I use them in my classes, but I guess it's very common, very typical everywhere in the world. So you can take these and apply them in Mumbai or in Delhi or anywhere, or in Shanghai or anywhere else in the world. Government facilities, like office buildings, military, I mean, they typically facility management, very strict in terms of security, protecting the people who are using the buildings, not only the building themselves, but also the people, and even more important, or not less important than that, is the data in these buildings, because these buildings, typically government facilities, have data about us, the residents, the citizens of that state, country, county, city. So we want our data, or we want to know that our data is protected and cannot be hacked or accessed by bad guys or people who don't need to have access to it. Healthcare, again, another large sector. Focus there is in providing healthcare services. So patient safety, that's a big issue, keeping up with compliance and regulations, and making sure that patients get treated not only by medical staff, doctors and nurses, but also get all what they need while they spend their time. They're not in good physical condition, so we want to do whatever we can to give them the best conditions we can while they are in our facilities there. Education, schools, university, colleges, community colleges. I mean, there is no need to talk about that. You're all students here. You know how important it is that school is being kept in good condition. I am not familiar with the Amity University in Mumbai. I've never visited there, but I know from my visits, I mean, I'm sure it's in excellent conditions, but I know that Amity University in Delhi is excellent condition, and I was very happy to to see how well the facility management personnel is taking care of their buildings there. So as students, you know how important it is to make sure school buildings are kept nice, clean, and in good shape. And of course, technology is very important in these buildings as well. Lodging industry, hotels, motels, resorts. We all spend time when we go attend conferences or go travel for business or for leisure. We go out for a vacation, we go to a hotel. We want the room, the whole hotel to be in good conditions to provide us what we need there. Entertainment facilities, stadiums, theaters, arenas, large conference, convention centers, retail, shopping strips, malls, residential apartment complexes. Here is very important the dealing with tenants. Leases from tenants, making sure the tenants are happy, because a happy tenant will renew their lease and will continue being the customer and paying us money to provide them this, hosting them in our buildings, in our apartment complex, and other spaces, banks, museums, multi-purpose buildings, and so on. So all these are buildings where facility management and facility managers are needed. These are all examples of where you can find facility management opportunities in terms of jobs and services, of course. Next slide, please. So, characteristics of facility management. I think I was able to convey to you that this is a multidisciplinary profession. I mean, we need their architects, we need engineers, we need people with understanding in financial management terms, accounting, financial and accounting, then managerial management terms, organizational terms. We need lawyers to deal with legal issues. I mean, it is a multidisciplinary profession, as you can see here. It is there to support the business. Remember that facility management, the core business is what the building is for. So for a hospital, the core business would be to provide healthcare. For a university, the core business would be to provide education. The facility management team is there to help the business do what it needs to do to provide its core services to their clients, to the users. It is about functionality, making sure, maybe the most important item here, a bullet on this slide, is to fulfill people's basic requirement at work. It says it at work, but it does not restrict to a workplace only. It is about fulfilling people's and users' basic requirements anywhere, at any place they stay at, any building they visit. Either it is at work or at the hospital as patients or guests, visitors of these patients, or as guests in hotels, or as students in schools or in colleges, or as users in a cinema, or as attendees in a conference. I mean, everywhere we have some basic requirements from the buildings, from the environment that we are at, and facility management is exactly about that. And the last bullet here is this is the IFMA's taken from the IFMA's, adapted from the IFMA's definition of facility management. It is about integrating people, place, process, and technology. Oops, we lost the presentation. We lost it.
I think someone started presenting the screen.
Yeah, Niraj, can you please share the screen back?
Dheeraj, can you just start sharing again?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
Someone, I think, by mistake started presenting.
yeah. Thank you, Niraj.
Yes, sure. Okay.
Okay, so this was a very short glimpse on facility management. Now I'll go into the second part of my presentation before we move to the probably most important and interesting part for you as students, which is Niraj's presentation. So I'll talk a little bit about Texas A&M University, the campus, the university I am working at, and Diraj is a student at, and the Department of Construction Science. So, next slide, please. Here it is in terms of geography. We are located in Central Texas. You can see it in the red star in the center of your screen under, or where it says College Station. Here is where we are located at. College Station is about, I would say driving distance, we are about an hour and a half away from Houston and an hour and a half away from Austin by car. And we are about 3 to 3.5 hours away from Dallas, again by car. There are flights to Houston and Dallas, but they are much more expensive than driving. So obviously, I'm sure you're all familiar with these large cities, Houston, Dallas, and Austin. So this is where we are located at. In terms of the university, we are one of the largest universities in the whole United States, maybe in the whole world. I don't know, I don't have data of other universities outside of the US, but we have close to 70,000 students on our campus. It's interesting to see that almost 10% of them, 5,900 or almost 6,000 students, are international students. So we have a very large body of international students coming from all over the world. We have more than 5,000 faculty, professors, and staff members on campus. Next slide, please. Texas A&M University has 17 colleges and schools. I'm in the College of Architecture, which is one of the 17 colleges, but of course there are other colleges here. There is a College of Engineering and College of School of Business and College of Education, and so is College of Art, and so on. So there are College of Science, so there are many other options here. The university offers a total of 175 master's program degrees and 92 doctoral program degree options. So you can see here, in addition to all the undergraduate or bachelor's programs, so you can see the large variety of options that a student can choose from when coming here. We have very strong connections to the industry overall as a university, but I'll expand about that a little bit in a moment when I talk about the department. The Office of Graduate and Professional Studies, what we call OGAPS, is the acronym. This is a point of contact for all of our graduate students. OGAPS is basically the body or the office that administers the process or the sequence and progress of graduate students along their studies. So at the bottom of this slide, you have the link to our main website, tamu.edu, and to OGAP's website as well. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about the College of Architecture. In the college itself, we have about 3,500 students, 4 departments: the Department of Architecture, the Department of Construction Science, which is where I live and work at, the Department of Landscape Architecture and Urban Planning, and the 4th department, which is the newest for us, Visualization. The college offers various graduate programs, both at the master's and PhD levels, and also graduate certificate programs in the areas that you can see on the slide. Now, the certificates are only open to existing students. So as a non-student, you cannot pursue a certificate. You must be admitted to any program at Texas A&M University in order to pursue the certificate. And as you can see, certificates are in fields that a student can enhance or broader their education and of course it adds eventually to their resume. At the bottom of this slide, you can see the main website for the College of Architecture. And then the next slide is a little bit about our own department. We have about 1,200 students. Of course, the vast majority of them are undergraduate or bachelor students, and another 100 graduate students. I don't have the statistics right now, but I would say that approximately 70 to 80% of our postgraduate students are international students. Diraj may talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Our master's program is a STEM recognized program with all the implications of that. We offer advanced studies in about the science and management of construction projects and the construction business. So our focus is construction management and construction science. There are 4 prerequisite classes that every postgraduate student must complete before they take our other classes. These are in construction practices in the US, cost estimating, construction scheduling and planning, and project management. And in addition, our program is very flexible. So again, I can talk about it, but I think Diraj has a slide that he mentioned. We give our students the flexibility to build their own curriculum based on their own interests. So you can see here that we offer graduate level classes in business management, in construction technology, in sustainability, in lean construction, in facility management, which is what I teach, in construction economics, which is also what I teach, in construction law and risk management, and many others. So a student can pick and choose based on their own interest and build their own curriculum and their own a degree plan. We also offer thesis and non-thesis option to our students based on the students' personal interests. So those of you who are interested in doing research and continuing to a PhD program later on, they should probably focus or choose the thesis option, whereas other students who are more interested in the professional track and finding a job after graduation, they would probably pursue the non-thesis option. Next slide, please. And this is some more data about our department. We have 42 faculty members, 18 tenure track faculty, and 24 professional track faculty. We have very close and strong connections with the construction industry in Texas. We have very large career fairs, and the industry is very much involved with our programs, curriculum, classes. Here are some examples of what industry is doing for us. They come give guest lectures to our classes, to our students. They host us on field trips. They offer scholarships. They are here in large numbers for career fairs to hire students. They provide job opportunities. They attend our board meetings twice a year. They come here from all over Texas to attend board meetings. They have social events with our students. So industry is very strong in our program, and we also have an industry relations office, which is one of very few programs, construction programs in the whole US that we have this capacity, and we offer our students options to review their resumes and help them improve on their resume writing. The industry office arranges, coordinates career fairs. It connects students with companies, with industry, helps students in terms of career planning. So this is something, the service we provide to our students. We also offer scholarships. However, I must warn you that these are very, very, very competitive. It is a high prestigious scholarships. It is very tough to get one. So those of you who are lucky to, or those students who are lucky, Diraj, I'm happy he was lucky to get scholarships for both years of his study. He can tell you how tough it is to get one, and it is very definitely not for granted, and not everybody, not all of our students get it. Most students do not, and then obviously they will have to pay the out-of-state tuition fees when they don't get one. Next slide, please. Yeah, there's some more data. I think slide, some more data about the Bryan College Station community. The whole city is 170,000 people in terms of population. This does not include students though, so you can imagine that during the school year we are about 250, a quarter million people if you add 70,000 students to town. And during summer, when students are typically not here, they take off, either they go back home or they do their internship somewhere else. Then the city is quite empty with only 170,000 people. In terms of weather, the winter is cold. I mean, average is about 10 Celsius degrees every day. The summer is hot and humid. 35 is the average, but we have many days where it gets to very humid and 40 degrees, so very similar to Mumbai, I assume. Today, for example, the forecast is going to be 30 Celsius degrees. So again, a hot and relatively not so humid day, but still 30 degrees. So it's more pleasant feeling, lower humidity. Student dorms and apartment are available all around town, mainly close to campus, so students don't have to travel, but we have bus lines that are completely free for students. So for those who live a little further away from campus, they can take a bus and ride the bus to campus. As a town in our size, we have grocery stores, pharmacies, entertainment, cinemas, restaurants, different cuisine. Of course, the most traditional ones are traditional American, Tex-Mex, which is a combination of Texas and Mexican food. Very popular here in this area. Of course, all the American fast food chains. And we have international cuisines. Not too many options, but we have some restaurants, Italian, Asian, Persian, Middle Eastern, and even one Indian restaurant in town. But Houston, I mentioned, is only 1.5 hours away from here by car. Houston is a huge city with population. The greater Houston is more than 7 million people. And of course, in Houston, there are plenty of international cuisines, plenty of very good Indian restaurants, for example. There are no shortage of good things, good places to be and visit and eat at in Houston. But even in town, you can find small hidden gems to where you can visit and enjoy. So with that, I think I reached the end of my parts of the presentation. Next slide, please. Yeah. And here, if you can please stop sharing, Diraj, and once I get the okay, I will start sharing my screen for Diraj to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Levy.
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah. So can I?
Yes, sir. I was waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we are a little short of time. Thank you, Dr. Levy.
No, I think you're perfectly right. He was going to take anyway. We started 10 minutes late, so it's fine.
So
Okay.
I'll just keep it very brief.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and for the interesting topic of facility management and the introduction to your university. I think a lot of students will be able to relate to your both the topics, and I think it's a very upcoming field that you have touched upon. And management is one of the subjects which most students ultimately, I would say, many students are finally opt for, because ultimately, as they say, management pays more than technicals. The technical people earn less than the management people. So that is one field I think many of them would be interested. So that's very good. A few points on facility management vis-a-vis India. Just a few points I'll just touch upon. We are, as you were talking about vacancies, there are definitely a lot of vacant office spaces, commercial and residential, because today in India, people would rather rent out rather purchase. So the cost of purchasing is very high. So renting is another option. Another thing is office spaces have shrunk because of computerization in the last 20 years. So storage spaces essentially have reduced. So office spaces, number of people have reduced in terms of heads in the office. Mechanization in office, computerization has reduced the staff requirement. Secondly, one more thing is being myself in the same field as a civil engineer, we have converted a couple of mills, old industrial structures into commercial structures. Because there is a law which allows structures which have got higher loading can be retrofitted and repaired and converted into buildings of lower loading. So we cannot go vice versa, but from industrial to commercial loading, we can definitely convert the structures. So that is one trend. We have been doing a lot of retrofitting of old structures with applying new facades so that it becomes a little more aesthetically appealing. Instead of constructing new structures, we are retrofitting and renovating existing structures, or which is something which you have spoken of. One more aspect is which we call as valuation. Valuation is a very important field in India. I don't know how far it fits in what aspect it fits into your facility management. I mean, that is something you can add into that. Because we definitely need valuers who can inspect properties, land, and existing properties like offices and residences. Because the certificate is required by the government to take any legal action on that. So this is one aspect of we can include in facility management. And of course, we have got different rules which are at the city level, state level, and central level, which we have to comply with. So that is one aspect also which you can include in facility management, wherein we have someone who can look into the juggling of the rules. So this is what I just wanted to comment on or speak on the management facility management topic vis-a-vis application in India.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
And if I can just add one thing, you have a profession called building surveyors, I think.
Yes, yes.
Yes, which
Surveyors and valuers.
here in the US, we don't have this profession, but it's definitely, I completely agree with you, it's very important role and aspect. And you call it building surveyors, we don't have it here. We call it different, or we divide it to different professions, but definitely correct. Very important aspect of evaluations of.
Sir, also for making some pertinent remarks here, for raising those couple of points. And in fact, Dr. Lavi, when you came here to Noida, to our sister university, I think the school that invited you was the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. Yeah,
Yes.
That is school. So we do have surveying as a field out here. And we also have licensed surveyors who take up these jobs. Okay, now let's go on to the second part of our webinar, wherein Dheeraj is going to talk to us about life at Texas A&M campus. And he'll probably also be talking to us about how to secure admissions in a US university, how to present a portfolio, and even how to write an SOP. And once again, it's my pleasure to introduce Dheeraj to you all the participants here. And Dheeraj, I think everyone should feel closer to him since he is a Mumbai ka ladka, so to say. He is a lad from Mumbai, having graduated from Thakur College of Engineering under Mumbai University a couple of years back. Dheeraj had spent about a year as a site engineer with JYO Consultants, which is a limited liability partnership in Mumbai. He also served for a year as a volunteer science teacher in a Malad public school, Mumbai. And he is from Malad and has taken his education from Thakur College of Engineering. So I invite Dheeraj to share his views as to how you can get an admission to US University, how to get a scholarship, as Dr. Lavi has just enlightened us that he is a scholarship holder in 2 years. Congratulations for that. Yeah, Dheeraj, over to you.
Yes, sir. Just a moment, we'll just get the slides on. Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dheeraj. Thank you, Professor Sriorkar, for having me and Dr. Lavi come to speak to the students of Amity University. So like Professor Sriorkar mentioned, I come from Mumbai. I stay in Malad, and I have my bachelor's in civil engineering from Thakur College of Engineering. in technology. I have a site experience at a construction firm located in Dadar West. And currently, I'm in my second years of master's program at Texas A&M University. My major is Master of Science in Construction Management. Next slide. My application experience. So I wanted to start by saying this, that when I was in my final year of bachelor's in civil engineering, I was introduced to this subject called as construction management. It was part of the universities of Mumbai curriculum. And that's when I was introduced to this topic of construction management at a very broad perspective. And that's when I decided that I want to go ahead and do a master's in it. I took assistance from an education abroad consulting agency at an early stage when I had decided that I want to go to America to do my education. So I took my GRE in October. I gave my IELTS in December. I started writing my SOPs and I got my LORs approved by the end of February. And that's when I applied to Texas A&M on 20th February. And I was lucky to be accepted into the university on 18th March. I got my offer letter then. I got my acceptance letter in March. Moving on. So getting an offer letter is not the only thing that you need to do when you decide to go to a university abroad. There are many more things that you have to understand. In order to be able to enter to the foreign university, you need to get a visa. And here is my visa experience. After I received my offer letter, I worked on my finances to get an I-20. The I-20 is an important document for international students. It is a must-see document. You need to have this. After I got my I-20 approved in June, I began my visa process. I filled my DS-160 application form. I paid my service fee. I booked my interview slots and I gave the interview and my visa got accepted. And I booked a flight for 12th August 2019 to Houston to come to Texas A&M. Moving on. Okay, so my entire life I had spent my time in Mumbai. I didn't go to any other university apart from Mumbai. I was at Thakur College. It's very close to my house. So it was an emotional rush for me to move out of my house. I was getting excited. I was feeling sad because I was leaving my house, my friends, my family. But I knew that I was coming here for a better future. And ever since I came here, I have learned something new every day. I have some photographs of my friends and family that sent me off to the airport. I have pictures of the university, as you can see. One at the very bottom, it's College Station. And the one at the right top end is the Francis Hall, where all our classes for construction management are held, and so on. Next slide, please. So part of the experience is meeting new people here. You meet people of various cultures, various places. The classroom is very diverse. I have people that are from the military. I have people that come from Mexico, that come from Israel, that come from Iran. I have a lot of South Indians in my class. I have people that come from the eastern part of India. An interesting thing here is that in our program at Texas A&M University, the Department of Construction Science, we do have large number of Indian students in the graduate program. So right now in my batch, the class of 2021, in a class of about 25 students, we have around 12 Indians. And Indians come from all places. We have people from Madhya Pradesh, we have people from Maharashtra, like myself. We have people from South India. We have a lot of Gujaratis in our class. So it's a mixed culture, but you will never feel that you are out of your home because there are so many Indians in the same class where you are sitting. Excuse me. I have some photographs of myself exploring Texas A&M, visiting places. I've met new friends. I've made new friends, and it's been fun. It's a good experience to be here. Next slide, please. Talking about my educational experience, first of all, I want to congratulate all the faculty that have done so well in these challenging times of COVID-19, switching from in-person classes to online classes, it is a big deal. It's a big change that nobody anticipated. But I am proud that my university, Texas A&M, was able to accept these challenges, and we fought back, and we had no loss of education whatsoever during our last semester when COVID-19 first hit in March in College Station. And some of the courses that I have taken is facility asset management taught by Dr. Lavi here. I have taken classes for construction cost estimation, where we learn about how do we find the costs for the building before it's even built. We find an estimate, we find a budget on which we want to build it. I've taken courses about construction scheduling. It's a course that talks about how to determine the end date of the project, when the project will complete. I've taken other courses like advanced project management, project controls, and construction laws, and I have many more subjects in the future that I'll be learning. Next slide, please. The big part of Texas A&M University is that, like Professor Lavi mentioned, we have about 5,000 international students, but out of that 5,000 international students, the big part are the Indian student. We have a big Indian Graduate Student Association that has over 500 members. So it's like a home away from home. You'll feel that you're among your people, people from your land. You'll find people from Mumbai, you'll find people from Ahmedabad and many more places. And you don't miss out on the major events that go during the time, like we celebrate Diwali, we celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi, we celebrate Holi, Republic Day, New Year's Eve, and whatnot. And a part of this is that I am part of the Indian Graduate Student Association student body at Texas A&M. And about it is that these guys help you for a lot of mentoring and networking before you come here at Texas A&M. Basic things that you need is house and a SIM card to be able to connect. And these folks will definitely help you about that. Next slide, please. To mention here is that these are some of the Indian delicacies that I've learned to cook. I never used to cook before when I was at my house. The three important things that we miss after leaving our house are the three F's. It's family, friends, and the food. So you know what you need to do when you come here. And a good part of College Station, the city where University of Texas A&M is located, is that you will find all Indian stuff that you want, all the groceries you need, all the masalas, everything. We have two Indian stores here that sell every product, be it Haldiram, be it anything, you get everything here. These are photographs of some of the food that I have cooked. It's biryani, samosas, vada pav, pav bhaji, paneer and naan, and pani puri. Yeah. So next slide, please. Coming to the most important part for my presentation is learning the application process to come to United States to pursue a master's degree. The first and most important step is to decide if you want to do a master's or not. That is a big decision that you need to take. And I would recommend that you start early with this process. You need a lot of counseling for this. You can talk to your friends that are already in the universities out there. You can talk to your parents because they are the ones that will financially support you. You need to talk to your professors at your university because they have industry connections. They know students that are alumni and are studying in abroad. So first step is to decide if you want to do a master's or not. The second step to do in the MS in US application process is to get your documentation ready and to set the course of action. The first and the most strong document that you have here is your Indian passport. You will need your Indian passport to get started. Then the first thing you need to do is take your GRE. It is the English proficiency exam that tests your verbal and math skills. It's a test of 340 marks. It has a section for math. It has a section for English. You need to take that. And even to take the test, you need your passport. After that, you need to take your IELTS or TOEFL exam. These are the exams that test your English language proficiency. And these exams are important, and you need a passport to appear for either of the exams, be it GRE or TOEFL. Then you need to get your letters of recommendations from your faculty, from your teachers that you have been learning with throughout your undergraduate process. Once you get your letter of recommendations, in the meantime, you need to write your statement of purpose. So, an important thing here is the statement of purpose. So, let us understand why it is important. When you apply in colleges in India, you usually take the entrance exam and then you give interviews before getting an admit letter. But what about if you want to go to abroad? You will take the entrance exams like GRE and TOEFL, but how does the university decide about your personality? What person are you? How do they know that? So, an SOP, a statement of purpose, is the point of connection between you and the university's admissions department. You write your story in your SOP, like what you want to do, how do you decide to do a master's, what is your background, what have you learned. It is a very important piece of document that decides your admissions. I will not get into much details of writing an SOP because that's another section, but I will definitely put weight on writing a good statement of purpose. And the format for writing it should sound like your story. It should begin with, when I was a child, I saw these buildings, I got amused by looking at them. And that's how I did my architecture degree, my civil engineering degree. And now I want to pursue a master's degree in construction because that's where I see myself after 5 years, 10 years down the line. And after writing your statement of purpose, another important document is to get all your transcripts. By transcripts, I mean getting your mark sheets for all the undergraduate semesters that you have taken in your bachelor's degree and getting your degree certificate which you earn after completing your bachelor's. These are the list of documents that you need before applying to any university abroad. And I would recommend to have a job experience, maybe taking a couple of years off before continuing with the master's. But it is not mandatory to have a job experience to apply. But I recommend it because that gives you a clear picture about what the market is looking for in the future. What are people expecting in the field from you that you need to know? And that helps you clear your mind about what kind of masters you want to do, what kind of education you want to take. The next step after getting your documentation ready is to start to shortlist the colleges you want to apply. You can categorize colleges based on three categories. It can be ambitious colleges, the ones you want to go to, like the Ivy League colleges like Columbia University, New York University. Then you need to select a few moderate colleges. By moderate colleges, I mean that you are confident if you apply there, there is a chance that you should get admitted. And then there should be a couple of safe colleges where you know that your grades are so good that you will definitely get an admission there. Because it is important that you do this sort of categorization in the colleges that you want to select so that you have the opportunity to go to the best one. And at the same time, you have the uh, option to select a safe university. And I would say this, it's not just the grades that help you get an admission. It's much more than that. The letter of recommendations, your professors write to the university, they explain what their experience has been with the student, how is the student, and how was he during his undergraduate time. And they recommend the university that please have so and so student in your university. The statement of purpose is where you write your story and tell them. So these are very strong documents. And it's not just about the grades, it's not about your GRE scores and your undergraduate scores. It's a lot more that they consider in the foreign universities. And to shortlist your colleges, you need to find a good counselor. There are counselors out there that provide services to help you select the university and get the documentation ready. They even train you for the exam. So I will recommend that you contact a good counselor at the beginning so that they can help you sort things out ahead of time. And then it's like you need to start filling out applications. You need to prepare all of this before you start filling out your applications. You need to get your documentation ready. You need to shortlist the universities you want to apply to. and then only you can start filling out applications. An important note that I would like to give you here is that when you start to fill the application, please check the end date of the application. There are some universities that have earlier end dates, like 15th December. So after 15th December, you might not be able to apply to that university of your choice. And mind you, even the start date for application can begin as early as next week. There are some universities whose application process begins from 15th of September. So you need to be aware of that when the application process begins, when the university has started to accept applications, and when is the last day to apply. And then the most important thing after getting your documentations done is to get your finances sorted. Having an abroad education is expensive. You just can't apply to any random university you like. You need to take into consideration the expense that you'll have to bear when you go abroad. It's an important factor. Moving on, I will talk about that later in one of my slides. In the next slide, I want to talk about the visa. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not just about the offer letter you get. It's not just that once you have the offer letter from the university, you can go, yippee, I can go to US. It's not like that. You need to get your visa. And the visa process is a bit hectic, and you need to be a little more professional when you start with your visa process. The first important document that you need is that is your I-20. It's a financial document that the university gives you, but you need to apply for that first after getting your offer letter. I mean, more of this information can be found on the university's website where they talk about the application process. But one thing is that in your I-20, you need to show your finances. The university checks if you are financially stable to support your education for at least 1 year. There is a fixed I-20 amount which you need to show in your financial documents. You will have to upload a CA certificate that says that I have X amount of rupees, I have X amount of dollars in my bank account, so I am well versed with what I need to do my masters. Once you get your I-20, you get your service ID. A service ID is the Security Exchange Visitors Program. That is the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. It's like they just created a record in their files that this person is going to come, Dheeraj Sharagi is going to come to Texas A&M, and it's a record with them in their DS-160 form. In your DS-160 form, they take your background information like what is your name, what is your address, which university are you going to, which other universities have you applied to, your family details, and how are you going to get your finances. Once you do your DS-160, you need to pay your service I-901 fee. That is, you pay the Department of Homeland Security for doing the background check on you. It's an expensive thing. It's about $350, but you need to pay your service fee before you appear for your visa interview. So the three main documents you need before your visa interview are your I-20, your DS-160 form, and your service I-901 document. These three you need to do, and you need to fill them by yourself. You need to apply for them. And the most important document that you need besides these three is your Indian passport. You need your passport to apply for a visa. And for the visa process, it's relatively simple. You just go to the US Consulate General's website, you book your appointment for visa. You need to book 2 dates. One is for the visa biometric, where you give in your thumbprints, your finger scans, your iris scanner, and a photograph. And then you need to schedule your visa interview, where you talk with the consulate journal, the representative, and they interview about various things like why did you want to go to this university? What are you going to do after you complete your education there? How are you going to support your finances? And mind you, the visa process, it's really hectic, but it's a relatively easy one when you prepare for it, when you plan for it, you get your documents ready, and you also need to do some mock visa interviews before you go for the main one, because that's important. You need to be prepared ahead of time of what they expect from you in the visa interview. And again, The role of a counselor comes into play here because they are the guys that are professional and they have been doing these processes for thousands of other students, and they can better guide you with your visa process, with your college shortlisting processes. And I mean, I can just say this, that you plan, you succeed, and you sky out. Yeah. And coming back to the finances, how much does it cost to study abroad? What to expect? So the tuition fee is going to be different for different colleges. When it is a private university like New York University, you can expect that their fee could be as high as $20,000 a semester. And in a regular program, you need to take 4 semesters. That means you will be spending around $80,000. And you can check with the dollar rate that it's somewhere between 70 and 75 Indian rupees, and you can do the math and get the figures. But my tuition fee at this public university of Texas A&M, it's between $45,000 to $50,000, which is around 34 to 38 Indian rupees, 34 lakh to 38 lakh Indian rupees. Sorry. And besides the tuition fee, the other thing that you need to take care of are your living expenses. You need a house, you need electricity, you need water running, you need your food. And those costs come into play when you live in the big cities. In New York, the average monthly cost can go as high as $1,500. Now, 1,500 might sound like a small amount, but when you convert it into Indian rupees, it is as high as 1,25,000 rupees. That's a lot. Some people don't even make that sort of money in a month, and here you will be spending that just on your living expenses. So I recommend that you do check the location of your university and understand what kind of living expenses would you account for. My average cost here at College Station is about $500. That is 35,000 Indian rupees, which is pretty standard. I mean, you spend more in Mumbai when you live in the metropolitan region, but that's a factor that you need to account for, the living expenses and the tuition fee. And now, how can you save these costs? These costs can be saved if you are aware of the right opportunities like scholarships. You need to apply for scholarships at the right time because there is a deadline for scholarship applications. And scholarships, it's in the word, it's for scholars. You need to have good grades. Before coming here, you need to maintain your grades when you are in the program, and you need to apply at the right time. The big advantage of scholarships that I got is that I got a scholarship of $1,000 for my first year of master's, but then it also made me eligible for an in-state tuition waiver. What is an in-state tuition waiver? It means that it's the half fee reduction for me. It's like, for example, a regular student might pay $10,000 a semester. I only pay $5,000 if I have the waiver that comes with the scholarships. And besides the scholarships, you can apply for campus jobs, you can apply for teaching assistant positions, you can apply for research assistant positions, you can apply at the library for the desk jobs, you can apply at Starbucks and find a job there. Moving on. Career opportunities. Now, one important factor that we all consider when we want to come to United States or any other country is that we want to excel in our career. We are looking for better opportunities. And there are a lot of ways in which you can find a job. You can have career fairs. Like in India, in engineering colleges, we usually have campus placement drives, wherein one company comes to the campus to hire students. But here in United States, we have career fairs where it's like a market of different companies. There would be booths where a lot of companies would be there. You go to them with your resumes, you wear your suit and tie, you talk to them, you introduce yourself, and you find a job. It's like a job hunt. And with Texas A&M University Department of Construction Science, it has the largest career fair in the United States. We have about 200 companies visiting us during the career fair days. It's like having 200 different companies under the same building. You can see a picture right there of one of the career fairs where there is a table and there are representatives from the companies, and you talk to them up front. You hand them your resume and say, I want to get a job, and you start talking. Besides the career fair, you can have your LinkedIn profiles. You can connect with different people. You can network with them on LinkedIn. You can find representatives of companies active on LinkedIn, talk with them, and make them aware that you are there in the market looking for a job. Other than that, you can get references from your professors. Like Dr. Lavi here, he has good industrial connections in facility management and construction management sector. It might so be that we develop a relation where he recommends me to a company directly that, hey, I know Dheeraj, he's a good student. If you have an opening, you might want to hire him. So references work out really well. I mean, if you look for jobs in India, you know how important it is to get a reference to find a job because it's that competitive. Besides career opportunities, you can also do summer internships during your break time. You can apply for co-ops. That means you don't study during a semester. Instead, you go to a company to work there. I have a friend from my class who is doing a 10-month co-op instead of taking the regular semester at Tesla. So that's a big deal. And besides that, once you graduate, you can apply for full-time jobs. I mean, the top 4 things that I've mentioned about career fairs, LinkedIn, networking, and references, they are the means through which you find summer internships, co-ops, and full-time jobs. And when you look for full-time jobs, the role of a STEM and a non-STEM course comes into picture. So courses in United States are categorized into 2 broad spectrums of STEM and non-STEM courses. The basic difference is that you get a 2-year additional optional practical training advantage if you are under a STEM course. So in a layman language, it's like when you graduate and you want to work, you don't need to apply for a H-1B visa for 3 years if you are in a STEM course as opposed to 1 year in a non-STEM course. And you can understand that into more details when you go to the university's website application pages. There are very different websites like Stupid Seed in India. It's very popular. Yocket is very popular, where you can understand more about the differences about STEM and non-STEM courses. How do you write SOPs and all of that. So with that, I would like to end my part of presentation, and over to you, Dr. Levy.
Yes, I want to conclude this part by thanking Professor Shirodkar and the School of Architecture and Planning at the Amity University in Mumbai for this opportunity to visit with you. And the last slide, you can see our contact details. I will leave it here for a few seconds. If you have cell phone, you can take a picture of. But you are very welcome to contact us, either Dheeraj, you have his phone number or email address, or me, you have my phone number, email address, also my website if you want to learn some more about me. And then I know it gets pretty late for you. It's almost 8 o'clock in the evening. So let me stop sharing and then
Yes. Now I request. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I request now Professor Amitesh to take over if there are any questions.
Thank you,
I have
Dheeraj.
a couple of.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you very much for the enlightening prospects for the students. My only one question to you is, because there are a lot of students here who are in architecture, being an engineer myself, we know that there is a slight difference between the admission process for architecture and engineering in India itself. So would you be able to just guide them on what the difference would be if they are applying for a architectural, I mean, from coming from an architectural college, what the difference would be?
Yes,
And
sir.
then we'll take questions for, yeah.
Yes, sir. Amitesh, sir, that is a very good question that you have just asked. I mean, I have a civil engineering background, but in my class, I have people from all different backgrounds. We've got architects in our class, we've got interior designers, We have got people from the military. We have got business graduates in our program. So it's like when you apply to the university, they don't care what background are you coming from. When you apply specifically to Texas A&M Department of Construction Science, because we are a part of the College of Architecture, and there is no preference to us if you have an architecture background, if you have an engineering background. We just look, what do you want to do? What will you achieve when you get into our program? And there is no difference. We don't differentiate between a guy that has a civil engineering background to a guy that has an architectural background. We consider the students at par. We just look at their profiles and decide who we give admissions to. And it's not in the department's hand. The admission process goes to the OGAPS, the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies. They are the guys that decide that a student will get admitted to the program or not. But to your question specifically, it does not matter if you have an architecture background or a civil engineering background. You get your credits for both, and you are equally and fairly compared when offered an admission.
Yeah.
If I
Thank
can
you very
add
much for
one
that.
point here to what Diraj has said, it's completely true for our department. It is in construction science. This is our policy. We do not differentiate. We don't give any preferences to this background or that background. However, if a student or a prospective student applies to an architecture, master's degree in architecture, I assume that they would give preference to architecture background. Whereas if a student applies to a master's degree in civil engineering, so it depends very much on where you apply to, and I would recommend that those who are prospective students interested in applying, do their homework. Maybe they can find who the coordinators, the managers of these programs are in the different departments, apply, and then ask this question, because this is the case in our department. We don't give preferences, but this does not mean that other departments, it works the same way.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Levin.
That will be correct.
So we have one question from Professor Tamane. How will be the classes conducted in the coming semester considering the COVID-19 situation?
Yes, this semester we conduct classes in a hybrid mode, which means that professors are given the option whether we want to teach in person in the classroom or like that. I mean, through technology. We use Zoom here. And students are also given the option to choose how they want to take the classes. So, for example, if I choose from home, then everybody has to connect using technology exactly like we do here. But if I go to the classroom physically, I teach it from the classroom, then in all of our classroom, the university has installed all the equipment to allow online teaching, delivery of lectures, materials. So we have cameras, video, audio, presentations, slides, everything, screens, everything moving up and down all the directions. And so I can teach from there, and students can either join me and sit there and watch me presenting to them in the class, or they can connect it remotely and watch my presentation simultaneously at the same time from a different location.
So both options are available for everyone.
Yes, both options are available this semester, and we still haven't been told what's going to happen next semester. So I guess we'll see as we get closer to it.
Exactly.
My question, I should first thank Dheeraj for a very informative presentation as well. I think he's covered almost all the aspects, right from the financial aspects to applications and, of course, life on campus. That was really helpful. But before that, I would just like to ask Dr. Lavi one question. Is there any specialization that you have, a graduate program in facility management, or is it just the certificate course that you have? Or do you plan to start something in the future?
Yeah, right now we don't have a certification or a graduate program in facility management. It is only classes based on classwork. So students take classes and then include it in their resume, but it's nothing official. I mean, if you mean a diploma or certificate that they get at the end of the road, no, we currently don't have it, but this is definitely something that the university is looking for possibility to expand it in the future.
Okay. So the students, I think, are pretty happy with the presentations. There are some very good comments that are coming in. And before that, until unless there are some comments in YouTube, which Suhail would have posted otherwise, in that case, I would still add here that I think COVID-19 has given us this advantage of connecting online. If this wasn't the situation, I don't think we would have connected like we did just now. I think Dheeraj also got a good opportunity to connect with future students. Maybe he can see a couple of students from here by the time he graduates. I hope we have students going in, because we have a first batch of architecture students that have just passed out. We have a first batch of interior design students who has also passed out this year. Before we sign off officially, I would once again request you, as you already promised, once again request both of you to send in your presentations, if you don't mind. If you mail me your project presentations, they're extremely helpful for the students to even understand what facility management is, or maybe those who haven't attended for some reason or the other. And even Dheeraj's presentation, where if anyone wants to apply to the US, I think it was a very point-by-point presentation, including the importance of right from getting a passport to checking your own finances. I think that was a really good presentation there. Apart from, of course, I don't need to talk about Dr. Lavi's presentation at all. I don't need to praise that or anything. It was expected anyway. I mean, Dheeraj did a wonderful job, and he should, I think, be applauded for it. Good job, Dheeraj. I felt you were a little, I felt you were a little nervous in the beginning, but then finally, when you got into the groove, you did a great job. I think the people are prepared quite well. Yeah. This is one thing which I should also. There's one question to Dheeraj.
Yeah, Dheeraj, what the question is, what are the career opportunities in India, and whether you can name a few companies engaged in facilities management?
I know from my experience, JLL, CBRE, DLF, but maybe Dheeraj knows some more. These are the largest.
Yes, sure. Mm-hmm. Like Dr. Lavi mentioned, the companies JLL, DLF, they are the giants in facility management that provide these services. So the thing is that in India, generally on construction projects, in shopping malls, in regular complexes, we don't have facility managers. We have what is termed as the maintenance department, is what we usually call them, the operations and maintenance department. But it's usually outsourced. You have private companies that take care of security. You have a janitorial service company. So the career opportunities in facility management would be either you get a job in the companies that we have mentioned, like JLL or DLF. I'm sorry that I'm not aware of any other companies beside these two, but either you find a job or you can start your own company that provides facility management services to various sectors, because I am not sure that we have a lot of facility management companies out there in India, because most of the work is outsourced, is broken into part. You have a different guy coming for security, you have a different person who's providing janitorial and cleaning services, and so you can begin your own construction facility management service. But talking about the construction industry, we are all aware that India is a growing economy. We are investing a lot in our infrastructure. So with the perspective of having someone in your company that has education abroad, that has some experience from America, that is a plus point that any construction company would want to have in their employees. So I'm just differentiating between the two job perspectives that I'm talking about. One is directly in the question about facilities management. So I don't think that there are a lot of jobs in facility management, but you can start your own business in facility management and provide those services. And as far as construction management goes, companies, big companies like Shapurji Palanji, LNT, Raheja, Oberoi Builders, they do hire international students. They do hire Indian students that have international education, because the exposure that I and all the students here in America will be getting from the industry is going to be very different from what we see in India on the construction sites and the processes and the construction means and methods that we follow there.
Dheeraj, I'm going to ask you a corollary to the question that was just asked regarding the career opportunities. Considering this very sensitive question, a little what we can call $1 million question. Once you spend so much on your fees and on your stay or your education in the US, and considering the limited career opportunities and considering the limited payments out here, especially right now, maybe in the couple of years, because the realty sector is extremely in extremely bad shape. What would you suggest? How many years would you still prefer to work in the US? How many years would you still advise that the students work in the US before they come back to India? Or should they come back to India or not, or continue to stay in the US? What about, let's say, even PhD? You do your doctorate there and then come back? What would you suggest, or what would you advise to the students?
This is a very important question that you just asked, Professor Srihodkar, that how much time does it take me to get my return on investment back? You spend about maybe $80,000, that's approximately 60-70 lakh Indian rupees. And the average package that a construction manager would get in the United States is about $60,000. That is what you make in a year when you are a construction manager at a given company in the United States, which comes to approximately 42 lakh Indian rupees a year. But the biggest deduction we have here in the United States is the tax deduction. There is approximately 25% of taxes that straight away are deducted from your salary. It's just like what we call TDS in India, tax deduction at source. It's something like that amount is gone from your salary. So for example, if you have a salary of $60,000, 25% goes off, you're left with $45,000. Now that $45,000 amount, you need to spread that into 12 months. So that comes to approximately $3,500 a month, which is 2.5 lakh Indian rupees. So you will be making 2.5 lakh Indian rupees a month. That is what you will get in your hands when you have your job. So now the question is, how do you want to pay that back? If, for example, in my case, I was lucky enough that my father is supporting me financially. I do not have an education loan on me. Whatever money I make, it comes in the family. But if you have an education loan, let's say you take an education loan of 30 lakh rupees for 2 years at an interest rate of $10%, then you end up paying 30 lakh rupees as principal and 6 lakh rupees as the interest for 2 years at 10%. And you need to pay that back, for example, in 2 years, which brings you to 1.5 lakh Indian rupees in a month. So now what you were left in your hand was $3,500, which is 2.5 lakhs. Out of that, 1.5 lakh directly goes to paying back your loan, which means you just have 1 lakh rupees left in your hand after you pay back your loan. And that money goes in your living expenses. You need a house when you are staying in the United States when you work. You need a car. A car is a must in the United States when you work. So you need to take care of that expenses as well. So the point being made here is that you need to, at least a bare minimum, you need to spend 2 years in the United States after you graduate in order to get back all the money that you have invested in your education. So you can work for 2 years, get your money back, and then work for a couple of more years, get your H-1B visa after that, and make some money. And my suggestion, my personal opinion is that I want to come back to India after working for a couple of years in America. And I want to bring back the education, the values, the technological stuff that I've learned in America to India and sort of enhance our construction industry with my experience here. Maybe in the future, 10 years down the line, I might start my own construction management or facility management firm. But that's a thing you need to work for 2 or 3 years, at least in the United States, to get back what you have invested. And that's about it. I hope that I answered your question.
Yeah, really interesting. I think that is exactly what I was looking at, because that is one of the questions that students normally ask. And we also tell the students that if you're going to go out there, as you said, if you check your finances first, and you also have to check your return on investment. It makes no sense in just spending on your investment, maybe half a crore, as we call it here. Maybe spend half a crore and then you come back and the payments right now are nothing short of pathetic. So it makes sense to stay there, provided you get a decent job out there so that you can pay off if you have taken a bank loan. And even though you haven't taken one, I think it makes financial sense to even pay back into your family because they have spent on educating you. Yeah,
absolutely.
That was, I think, really good. We had a fantastic session, no doubt, and enlightening session. And one thing that I would like to point out to the participants is that though it's about 8 o'clock here, we had Dr. Lavi and Dheeraj both logging in at 7:15 in the morning, their local time. So they have logged in at 7:15 and you can see their dedication. They're all prepared, all formally dressed and all ready at 7:15. So they logged in at 7:15, whereas we are here comfortably ending our day at about 6 o'clock. They have their day in front of them. So thanks a lot once again. I would also like to thank Professor Rajendra Tamane. I would like to thank Suhail, who was also with us as standbys in case anything went wrong with either mine or Professor Amitesh Prabhu's connection. So thank you, Professor Amitesh, also for moderating this session.
Thank you, sir.
And once again, thank you, Dr. Lavi and Dheeraj. We would like to host you physically anytime in the future when this all opens up. And we pray to God that this opens up pretty fast. Or at least a vaccine is developed so that, yes, we can get back together physically.
Absolutely.
Definitely, sir.
I will be very happy to. And thank you, Professor Yorkar and Professor Amity and everybody else from the School of Architecture at Amity University for hosting us today.
Thank you very much, Dr.
And finally, thanks a lot to all the participants who have stayed back here for the last couple of hours, bearing with us and participating in this webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Have a good time.
Yes, sir.
Take care. Stay safe.
Definitely, sir. Thank you very much for having us, and goodbye. And I wish you all the very best. And please do connect with me if all the students, if you have any problems you face, I'm always there to help and guide you with anything you want me to help you with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you, everyone.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sure.